Cancer and comedy. They're not usually things we would associate with one another, but comedian and broadcaster Mark Steele blends the two seamlessly in his book, The Leopard in My House, One Man's Adventures in Cancerland. The memoir offers a warm account of Steele's journey throughout chemotherapy rooms, bizarre interactions with doctors and physical tribulations. After being diagnosed with throat cancer, he was given the all clear from doctors last year, and now he's preparing to go on tour in the UK from September. Well, Mark Steele joins me on set now to talk about more of this. Thank you very much for being here.
Well, thanks for having us.
Cancer is a grueling experience as it is. What made you want to write about it?
Well, I suppose as a comic, everything that happens, you think, oh, there must be a joke in this somewhere. But I don't think that's just comics. I think everybody I came across when I was going through all of this really had quite a funny sort of angle on it. I don't think I've ever met so many people who were just completely positive all the time, really. And it was very, very fun. Like one morning after I had an operation, which was sort of one of the bleakest moments, really, and the next morning there was a Polish man who was in the bed next to me, and he'd been quite noisy in the night. He'd been playing sort of things on Instagram and keeping me awake a little bit and keeping everyone else awake, and I thought he's going to be trouble. But he redeemed himself the next morning in a way I never would have imagined, when at 9 o'clock in the morning, in the critical care unit of the cancer ward, he lit up a cigarette. And and it was one of the funniest things. Seeing nurses panicking and sort of unclipping him from the drip and wheeling him out. And I thought, I don't know anyone who couldn't sort of think that was funny, really.
Yeah, indeed. And it's those moments like that where you think, you know, what is going on? I have to write about this. For anyone who doesn't know your story or hasn't read your book, can you tell us a little bit about at the beginning of all of this, how the cancer was diagnosed and what was going through your head at that moment?
Well, it started when, and I think this is quite common really, it was head and neck cancer, so I didn't know that. And I just, one morning, literally just one morning, I was having a shave as normal, and I was looking in the mirror and I thought, are you supposed to have a huge, hard, solid lump on one side of your neck? And then, because I'm a man of a certain age, I thought, yeah, probably, and just carried on. And then it was about 2 weeks later before I went to the doctors. And at every point, and I think most people who go through this think this, you think they're going to say, oh, stop being so daft, it's just a bit of cheese that's got stuck down there or something. And then instead, I just kept getting sent along to more and more little processes until it was diagnosed. And the worst moment, which was pretty unsettling, was sat with my son, who came with me to this meeting. And you don't know, I mean, there's just a big air of confusion. And again, I think this is what everyone who's been through this says, similar thing. I was sort of sat there with a doctor who just said they'd lost the biopsy initially. And then they said, it is cancer, it has spread, but we don't know how far. You'll have to come back later to find out how far. I don't know. And I said, is it fatal? And he literally tapped the table and went, touch wood.
Not exactly reassuring or what you want to hear, I suppose.
No. And I think at the time I was so sort of unsettled that it wasn't until later I look back and think, that is quite funny that a doctor is relying on superstitions.
There were, some of those kind of absurd anecdotes in your book. And another running joke was that people would say to you, oh, you look well.
Yeah, they do, yeah. And the people, I mean, just about everybody is immensely kind in these situations. You know, people who you've never met before that send messages, or friends, people come round with a daft little gifts or something. Everybody is lovely in their own way. And one of the ways people do that is, as I'd come out of the treatment, people would say, well, you look well, but of course it doesn't mean anything, you know, until you've had the scans and they've shown that the cancer's gone. They don't know, but that's just, it's a very, people are being kind, you know, you just have to accept that.
And in the moment when you talk about, I don't know, the other patient lighting up the cigarette or the doctors losing your biopsy, are you still in that moment thinking, wow, this is really awful, and it's only later that you find, oh, that was actually quite funny?
I think the terrible thing is the mind of the comic goes, if I get through this, there's a show in this. I must say there's a French connection here because there's a lovely woman who I speak to every week when I'm in England who's French, and I like to speak French with her. And on the day that the doctor said touch wood, so I was very, very... Yeah, this was incredibly upsetting, and I did think, am I in serious trouble here? And I'd arranged to meet her in the afternoon as normal. And so I was just sort of sat there with her trying to go through all that had happened, but in French. And at one point I said, ils ont perdu la biopsie. And she put her hand on my arm and went, la biopsie. Une biopsie
Trust the
féminine.
French in your very most vulnerable moments to correct you on your language, definitely.
Bless her for that, though.
You mentioned that your son was really there for you during all of this. Has he read the book?
I don't think he has. My son and daughter were fantastic, yeah, and brilliant because not just were they both sort of wonderfully helpful, but they were funny as well throughout it. So they weren't more, because you don't want someone going, we're all thinking of you. That's not what you want. You want someone who's being a laugh,
Lifting
really.
your spirits.
Yeah, I mean, when on the day that the hospital rang to say that the cancer has, that the treatment has worked, at least for now, we don't know if it'll come back, but for now it's worked and you're fine. And I put on social media the next day that this had happened, and my son, I'm so proud of him for this, he said, this is because I've got a radio series in the UK, and my son added on social media, this is excellent news for fans of radio comedy, but not such good news for people who think I should be able to get onto the property ladder.
Oh, ouch.
But bless him
good
for
for
that.
him.
But no, he was brilliant. Both my kids were amazing, yeah.
And tell us about your upcoming tour then.
Well, I've sort of made this into a show, which I suppose was inevitable, really. There's probably a terrible bit of you that thinks, well, at least I've got something to write the next show about. And it's the reaction to it. What I love about it is people are the people laugh. I thought, are people going to think, it's a wrong subject for comedy or whatever? But that's not the case. And every night people come up afterwards. A little queue of people come up, especially if I've got the book. And there's lots of people who've been through a similar experience. Usually they're fine now. That's one of the reasons for writing it and for doing the show, is that I want to sort of make it less scary, because when I was young, if someone got cancer, you expected them to be dead within months, and that's really, really not true now. It's so
about
much
finding
more positive.
the light in the darkness.
Yeah, absolutely. Lots of light in the darkness, and it's scary, but it's nowhere near as scary as it used to be.
Well, thank you very much, Mark Steele, for coming in, talking to us about that, your book and your show coming up in the UK.
Thanks. And hopefully I'll do this show in France next year. That's the plan.